Well, first off, I apologize it's so late. It's actually a little bit after 10:30, and I did not want to wait until this late to get this video out. As a matter of fact, there's a possibility that most people that are watching this are not viewing it until April 2nd, but I can assure you, right at this very moment, it is 10:41 p.m. on Tuesday, April 1st, and we are going to talk about Dr. Jimmy's annual All Secrets Revealed 4-part videos. And you know, this starts everything. Normally. The speculation of what's a work and what's a shoot in Dr. Jimmy's videos, pretty legendary, to be totally honest. Or, considering the fact that Him Yim ended on Monday night, legendary. So, I promise I won't do that joke again. I think I did it the other day. If not, I'm doing it now, so yeah, here we go. So, we're going to talk about Dr. Jimmy's videos. And, like I said before, Dr. Jimmy's videos, you have to take them with a grain of salt. And you have to read between the lines to figure out what's real, what's fake. Now, to Dr. Jimmy's credit this year, he threw out some house possibilities, most of which are on the table right now. Most of which have already been speculated to be part of the event this year, or in years to come. So, kudos to Dr. Jimmy. If any of this is a work, that he came up with properties that are believable, given the fact that we've already mentioned most of them. All of us Horror Night Updaters on YouTube have definitely mentioned all of these properties at least once. So, I want to break this video down. And it basically started off with this one tidbit of information that is very true. It seems like they all seem way too good to be true. And given the fact it's April Fool's Day, something that's way too good to be true probably isn't true. That being said, Dr. Jimmy has figured out a few truths throughout the several years that he's been doing the All Secrets Revealed videos. Now, yeah, what do I mean? Well, he called Penn and Teller in 2012, and he was talking about the Orgy of the Damned, which ended up being pretty close, pretty similar to the 7 Scare Zone at Hollywood Boulevard. And on top of that, he called American Werewolf in London. So, like I said, there's a little bit of truth to everything. And given the fact that the 8 houses he mentioned have all been mentioned at one point, some more so than others, I would say it's a really good bet that a lot of the things that could possibly be this year pertaining to Dr. Jimmy's videos, you know, this may possibly be the year that he was also alluding to that was going to happen one of these days. That, who knows, maybe I'm just going to reveal everything for the event. Well, not exactly everything. Not the scare zones. But yeah, we'll talk about that as we progress in the video. And I have to take a drink here, because we're going to talk for a while. So, after Dr. Jimmy apparently got all the complete reveal from whomever his source is, he found out that some things that have been rumored, they are true. But some things that have even been listed legitimately are now not true. See, according to Dr. Jimmy, as it pertains to this All Secrets Revealed video, there was the first picture, it was back in January, Mike Aiello tweeted out a cover sheet, the first official Maze photo for Halloween Horror Nights 24. And it was a garbled image, kind of blurred. It was basically impossible to read, for good reason. And this was also officially announced as a 100% completely original IP based on absolutely nothing. A completely original concept from start to finish. So this would not be an IP, this would be a complete original. Dr. Jimmy says that the powers that be decided they wanted to 86 this idea and make the event only IP. So, interesting to start off. So, where's Nightingales? Where's the Connection to Legendary Truth? Cary, Ohio, and when's Jack coming back? Well, the third one, obviously. We'll get to that. So, no originals? Really? Is it true? Can it be true? Well, we'll progress. So, they gave A&D a bone and let them choose the IPs for the event, with one notable exception, and that would be the street experience, or the random scare zones around the entire park. And I'll talk about that in a bit. Now, excuse me, now apparently because American Werewolf in London was way successful last year, and deservingly so, because it's freaking awesome, and I can't wait to actually watch the old videos and remember back in when I was in that house numerous times over the course of the event. This has given that credibility to A&D to come up with whatever they wanted, just as long as it's an intellectual property. So, they chose this. Now, Dr. Jimmy name drops the fact that there's not going to be an Insidious this year, there's not going to be Paranormal Activity this year. The houses will be based upon cult favorites. And stuff that people like, but stuff that in some ways can be underground, but stuff that has a very niche audience, but also can appeal to the general public. And he also mentioned that he doesn't know the official locations for anything, and we won't know that until the permits are released. And once the permits are released, I can speculate further. Now, the first thing he name drops right off the top, before he gets started, is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Something that Mike Aiello has wanted to do for a long time, something that would connect to an event, especially if they want to do the carnival, not necessarily Carnival of Carnage, but maybe a carnival atmosphere, including the American Horror Story Freak Show season, especially since it's set in Florida. So it makes perfect sense they would use it. And this would connect to the fact that the rumors are already there that Jack the Clown is coming back to the event this year. I mentioned 4 billion times by now that the gentleman that was, say it along with me because I know you are right now, the gentleman that was playing the Grinch last year at Grinchmas was given a contract to play Jack the Clown this year in one form or another. Now, a lot of people were saying that it'd be a new show. Well, officially, on the website, on the official HalloweenHorrorNights.com website for Orlando, it says there are 2 shows. Bill and Ted is the first show, Rocky Horror Tribute is the second show. Makes perfect sense, no any reason to change it. So that's not going to happen. And you wouldn't waste Jack the Clown on a scare zone, at least by itself. So obviously he has to be in a house of some sort if he's going to be involved. I.e., Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And it was something they've already talked about wanting to do, and it makes perfect sense that it actually would be a part of the event. And I truly believe it will be a part of the event. Not sure it's 2014, though. Maybe somewhere else down the line. And apparently there was also another rumor, according to Dr. Jimmy, that there was going to be Jack the Clown in the house. Not sure if it would be a character as Jack the Clown, or it's going to be kind of like what happened in Cabin in the Woods, that if you looked upward at the last room in the house, you would see above the elevators that Jack the Clown was staring down at you. But of course, if you were worried about Fornicus or the other clown, or maybe the Sugar Plum Fairy, or any of the other creatures in Cabin in the Woods, you probably would miss that. But for those of you that went on the Unmasking the Horror Tour, which I'm excited to say I will definitely be going on yet again this year, you saw that in all its glory. Or if you've done that before, you were able to look up, even with the creatures all around you, and still catch Jack the Clown and point him out to other people, like I did when we went through as a group to do the YouTube meetup last year. So, that was Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and it makes total sense. And I also connected the The Hate to Fly clue of fate, I connected that potentially to Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So it's a very good possibility this could really happen. Second house being Ghostbusters, and Dr. Jimmy connected Malcolm to Ghostbusters via Dr. Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park. Of course, he was one of the actors that was going to play Dr. Egon Spengler, which is the late, great Harold Ramis's part in Ghostbusters. And there's the connection to the firehouse in New York, and there was a big reason why Ghostbusters would be at the event, given the fact this is the 30th anniversary of Ghostbusters, and the fact that they can make it as a complete tribute to Harold Ramis. And that would make complete sense to me. Now, another thing about this whole situation is the fact that Dr. Jimmy had to throw out that apparently they stumbled upon some vats in a warehouse somewhere on Universal property that contained original green slime from Nickelodeon. And the fact would be that you would actually be slimed in the house. You would actually have Slimer slime you in the house. Which would work because there would be little notes outside the house before you enter saying you will get wet when you go on Popeye and Bluto Bilge Rat barges, or Dudley Do-Right Ripsaw Falls, which, like I said, I got so soaked on that ride, it was insane. I've never been more wet on a water ride in my entire life. You not will get wet, you will get slimed. So that is going to be awesome if that actually happens, and we're going to see all the various characters and locations from the Ghostbusters movie. Now, the way Dr. Jimmy was talking about, he did not mention Ghostbusters 2 or the real Ghostbusters or Extreme Ghostbusters or any of the other facets of Ghostbusters at all. He mentioned Ghostbusters 1 as in the first movie. So I would think that we are going to focus on the first movie. You're going to see the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and of course, you're going to see the rivers and crossing the streams. Don't do that, it's wrong. And Gozer, him or herself, depending on how you look at things. Yeah, it's going to be an awesome house if that actually happens. Do I think it will happen? Oh yeah, I definitely think it will happen eventually. Do I think it's 2014? I'm not exactly sure. I think it could. I think there's an eventual possibility we will get Ghostbusters, and for that matter, I think eventually we'll get Beetlejuice too, to play up the fact that they both used to be at Universal Studios Florida as experiences and walk-around characters, and now they're not. Beetlejuice obviously still has the Graveyard Review, and the Ghostbusters are long gone. But the thing about that is I think they both will end up in the event one way or another somewhere down the line. Do I think it's this year? Not exactly sure, but it would be totally awesome, especially getting slimed by Slimer. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what would happen. Now, another thing Dr. Jimmy brings up, the third house being something that I talked about, and another clue for Malcolm being Pete Capaldi was in the thick of it. And, of course, that also connects him to another property, a property that I know Mike Aiello wants to do. And I know that Mike Aiello has used different creations from this property in other houses in the past. And he's brought a couple of things, like obviously in Werewolf last year, we saw a very familiar blue police box, or it was included in Winter's Night, and even in Bill and Ted at one point. So this would be a huge mark out for everybody, and not just the general public, but this would bring out Whovians by the truckloads. That's right, Dr. Jimmy announced the third house to be Doctor Who. And Doctor Who would be awesome, and like I said, I connected Doctor Who to Malcolm, and a lot of these I can actually connect to Malcolm. A lot of these actually were Malcolm red herrings. Interesting. So, that being said, I really think that Doctor Who would be awesome to bring to the house. Now, there was a Horror Nights Updaters video that actually, I believe it was UK HHN, I'm pretty sure it was, said that it would be really hard to get the rights to Doctor Who. So, could it be that when Mike Aiello was going to the UK, he wasn't talking about Hellraiser or just seeing the sights? No, he could possibly have been getting the rights to assured Doctor Who would be included at Halloween Horror Nights 24. Or, down the line. Do I think Doctor Who will show up at the event? Oh, absolutely I do. And given the fact that there was a time before Halloween Horror Nights last year that the TARDIS itself actually showed up in the park. And there were photos that I saw on Twitter of said TARDIS. And, you know, I think it may actually happen. Don't blink. So, yes, I'm pretty sure all the Whovians would be coming out in droves as Doctor Who debuted at Halloween Horror Nights. So I think it'll happen. I think it definitely will. Not sure if it's this year, but it'd be really awesome if it were. So the next house is something a lot of people have been wanting for a while. Something I've actually wanted for a while. And it makes total sense given the fact that they use so much of this property anyways. Why not? Why not find another way to connect it, this time to Halloween Horror Nights, and use something iconic that has been used throughout the years in a completely different manner, a television property. And that would be bringing The Simpsons' Treehouse of Horror to Halloween Horror Nights. I would say it would be, if it made perfect sense, it was the sprung tent behind The Simpsons, to be totally honest. But that'd be interesting. I really think that would be an awesome way to connect The Simpsons to Halloween Horror Nights. And it would be a lot more to the fans of the show. This is a lot of catering to fans, actually, if Dr. Jimmy's IPs do come to fruition. A lot of catering to a lot of very specific type of fans. And The Simpsons definitely have their fan base. Obviously, that's why Springfield is awesome and so successful at the studios. Of course, we would see various iconic scenes from various Treehouse of Horror episodes throughout the entire duration of their run. And he also mentioned, of course, Ned Flanders as Satan, and Mr. Burns as Dracula, and, of course, Kang and Kodos, because they have to be involved, and maybe using the shinning. Can't do anything about that. And possibly, you know, when Groundskeeper Willie did the Freddy Krueger thing, yeah, it would be an awesome house. And, you know, I think if they do Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, I'd put it in 3D, to be honest. That would be our 3D house of the year. And I'd put it in the same sprung tent that Penn and Teller was in, that The In-Between was in, and that Afterlife Death's Vengeance was in last year. So, yeah, that's what I would do. I'd make it a 3D house, and I think it'd be awesome. Then again, there's also reasons you could put Killer Clowns from Outer Space in a 3D house, but that's a completely different story. Now, the next one is something that they've been throwing around since last year. I was waiting in line, playing heads up with everyone, and when I wasn't doing that, they were chatting a lot about bringing BioShock to the event, and I really think that does happen this year. And they were really adamant about bringing a video game property to Halloween Horror Nights this year. And I think that we are going to get BioShock this year. And I also think that we get Resident Evil as well. I don't know which house of Resident Evil it will be, but it will be played upon another video game. And I don't think it's going to be as darkly comedic as Escape from Raccoon City was. I think that it's going to be a lot more hardcore and a lot more fitting towards the actual scarier elements of the later video game franchise. Or they could go completely different and throw it towards the movies. Because obviously there's a new Resident Evil movie coming out right before the event starts this year. So, who knows, maybe that'll be the possibility. But that's not a Dr. Jimmy thing, that's just a Sir Owen Disney thing. So we'll continue. And say that we're talking about another music house, and obviously, it's not something that's been done in Hollywood before. It's not something that's been done to death. It's not Alice Cooper. It's not Ozzy. It's not Black Sabbath 13, which I thought might be a possibility. It's actually Kiss. And, you know, it'd be interesting to see Kiss in a house, even though I really think that if they're going to do a music property, I think what you do is you take Jack the Clown as the icon, you take the American Horror Story Freak Show season, you take Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and lo and behold, you add an Insane Clown Posse maze based upon their work, and you do a completely clown-heavy event, a carnival, if you will. Not the Carnival of Carnage, not done that way, but no, just clowns. Freaking creepy-looking, scary-looking, evil-looking clowns. And you even find a way to bring it to the event that way. They all float, don't they? So, I would say that would be awesome. A Kiss House, it might work. I think if I'm going to talk about a Dr. Jimmy work here, I think Kiss would probably be one of the ones I would point directly to. Would it appeal to a demographic? Oh god, yes it would. Would it bring in fans that wouldn't necessarily go to the event? Absolutely. But I don't think that it's going to come to the event. I don't think we get another Music House for quite a while, unless we get a rehash from Hollywood. Like I said, bringing Black Sabbath 13, or our version of it, to a Sprung tent would be a possibility, but I don't think that's the direction this year. So yeah, this will be the first one that I'm going to say, no, I don't think Kiss is coming to Halloween Horror Nights this year. So, Dr. Jimmy, you are correct on a lot of things. I truly believe that. I don't think Kiss is going to be one of them. I could be completely proven wrong here, but who knows. But this is about speculation, and speculation upon an April Fool's Day video. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. The next one is the house that oh my god, if it really happened, I'd be extremely ecstatic for. And it actually focuses on... We used The Forsaken before, and then La Llorona obviously continued it. Now, the Spanish influence at Halloween Horror Nights would continue again, according to Dr. Jimmy's video, and that is played upon something that has not been mentioned at Halloween Horror Nights on this coast. There was a house for a specific person that Will knows very well, Will, of course, being another podcaster on this channel, that he comes every once in a while. This also connects to a property that actually taped on location at Universal for several years. And is still going to hopefully be taping at Universal sometime before this year is over. But not in the way you would think. I can only be talking about Lucha Libre. Yes, luchadors, Mexican wrestling, awesomeness, totally awesomeness. And when it comes to Mexican wrestling, you have to go back a ways. You have to go back to the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s to where there were the really obscure wrestlers versus monster movies that were made, mostly featuring the great El Santo, and also featuring Blue Demon, and even also mentioning a couple others like El Hijo del Santo, and of course Mil Mascaras, and Huracan Ramirez Jr., who is known in professional wrestling as the man who came up with the Hurricane Rana. So, yes, there used to be movies that used to have luchadors fighting monsters. And a shout out to my good friend and somebody I managed for many years, the Death Falcon Zero, for doing a movie just like this. And this is what they want to do. They want to focus on the luchador horror films starring Blue Demon. And it would be extremely awesome, and obviously this would be not battling regular monsters. Spanish versions of the original Universal monsters, including the Wolfman and Dracula and the Mummy, but not the Mummy in the normal sense. Oh no, the Mummy in a female sense. An Aztec princess that was completely reanimated into a mummy. Do I want this house? Absolutely I want this house. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Closest thing we get to luchadors at Halloween Horror Nights is going to be the TNA ring, if it's still set up outside, or the lucha masks that they have at City Walk. And Antonitos now. And Antonitos? Yeah, the new restaurant that kind of looks like, that has like the bell tower from La Llorona last year. So that's pretty awesome, if that would happen. But yeah, as much as I want that one to happen, I'd probably say no to that one as well. The final house, the 8th house, something Dr. Jimmy doesn't know everything about. He says he knows just a little bit about it, but he's going to go with his own personal speculation to come up with the actual thing. And it sounds to me like it's going to equal out to Dracula, which is funny given the fact that the tomato juice and the fact that Malcolm equaled out to Nathan Fillion, who was in Dracula 2000, and I thought that was going to be like, no, it's not going to happen. Well, Dracula would be something we haven't seen for a while, and that's a dual-run house. One side being Dracula Untold, the new film that's coming out later this year, and the other side being the Dracula NBC television series, which right now is fighting to stay on the air. And we will know in May if it's going to survive or not. Yeah, I don't think this is happening. I would say no. Do we get Dracula? I think maybe, eventually, again. Do I think it's going to happen here? No, I don't. So yeah, I would knock that out immediately. Then Dr. Jimmy dropped the ball and said, you know, we're talking about the scare zones or the street experiences here, and he mentions that A&D were not allowed to choose this. They were forced to go with an IP that was from a higher-up source, obviously. And this would obviously be the big screw you to everybody that didn't want The Walking Dead back, because they're going to want them back now, given the fact that obviously there's the connection to Lionsgate, and Lionsgate has a subsidiary, which is Summit Entertainment. Summit Entertainment is known for a very successful, albeit I still don't understand why, property. And there was an extreme connection last year to the Karazhan Horde. And that explains where all the zombies. Well, there was apparently speculation the Strangoid were going to be featured this year. And that was going to equal out to a whole lot of vampires. And, you know, that's the reason why that apparently, because the Strangoid are famous for being the most versatile, they have the most variety of shapes and sizes and differences, like Nosferatu, and they're horrific and can be seductive, or they can be sparkly. Yeah. To focus on the tween that is going to Halloween Horror Nights, they're going to make the street experience Twilight. Oh, goody gumdrops. That's definitely not going to happen. And to the gentleman that was tweeting me, and asking me that if I think Twilight's going to show up at the event, oh no, no way at all. And it's funny because Dr. Jimmy last year, during the Halloween Horror Nights All Secrets Revealed for 23, also said something about a vampire scare zone of sorts and a sparkly vampire getting beaten up. So yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah, I don't think we see Twilight at the event. Definitely not going to be the street experience. Something that was really interesting, though, was mentioning the fact that from Fright Nights all the way up till Halloween Horror Nights 22 was the appearance of the Rat Lady. Well, the Rat Lady is going to be a little different this year. And she apparently was going to be in the event in 2013, and she was going to be zombified, and they were going to, like, put makeup on the rats. Yeah, PETA said no. And why wouldn't they say no? And they're like, okay, we'll put the kibosh on this and we'll use it another year. Well, apparently where the barn was, where Herschel's barn was last year for The Walking Dead, that's close to the entrance of Central Park, and close to Mel's, and close to the place where I got my frozen lemonade that I have the picture from my Facebook page. And of course, close to the horror makeup show. They're going to be apparently a standing vertical glass coffin that is going to be completely giant, and there's going to be a beautiful lady suspended high above, and flying around her are going to be bats. She's going to have fangs. She's going to be a vampire princess. No offense to Jimmy Jacobs. She's going to be a vampire princess. And she's going to be not the Rat Lady, but the Bat Lady. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Not sure the logistics, if we can pull that off or not. Dr. Jimmy did not mention Bill and Ted at Rocky Horror, probably because they're pretty obvious at this point. But it's funny because he mentioned Lionsgate and he mentioned Summit Entertainment. Summit Entertainment has a connection to two really strong IPs. One being The Crow, actually. And The Crow would be an interesting house. The other one is something that a lot of you, including myself, even though it makes me shudder thinking about it, have wanted at the event. And I really think it will happen at the event. And I will give a shout out right now to my friend Matt, who I was chatting with on Facebook earlier today. And Matt basically come up with an idea, and I'm not going to steal it. I'm just going to say that it's a brilliant idea, and you know what? I think it's a great thing to run with. I talk about the Horror Homecoming for 2015. I think that Halloween Horror Nights 25 is going to be a very original heavy year. Like I said, spearheaded by Michael Myers finally coming to Orlando. We're getting the John Carpenter Halloween house we've been wanting forever. That being said, when you do the director's house, there's probably going to be a All Night Die-In 3, which I'm pretty sure will happen. And Matt said this, and I'm going to go with it. I think that it's going to focus on... He thinks it'll focus on ghost properties and a room for each. And I would think if they just waste this property on just a piece of a house and not do a house itself, it's going to be a total travesty and a completely missed opportunity. Summit Entertainment is responsible for Sinister, and I do guarantee we get Sinister in the next couple years. Interesting thinking that Summit is also known for Sinister. Interesting. Well, Lionsgate's known for Saw, so there you go. So, it's interesting to think about that, and like I said, shout out to Matt for coming up with that idea, and I'm not stealing it, I'm just saying that it's a good idea, so I'm just going to mention it. Mention that he came up with it. Kind of like how Charles said something about using nightingales in Disaster Queue, and I think that's a brilliant idea, so I credited Charles with that idea in the last video. And apparently I just did it now. So, what else do we know? Well, here's the reason it took me so long. Is because I was watching my old videos to make sure I'd line everything up. And I've said, when you talk about the Fate code word we got from Hate to Fly, there were possibilities of The Walking Dead, Insidious, The Conjuring, Sinister itself, American Horror Story, an icon in general, or Jack the Clown. Dr. Jimmy's Tomato Juice, meaning Dracula, so maybe there is a little truth in advertising. Or possibly the return of Dr. Mariagana, or Bloody Mary. But again, I think if Bloody Mary comes back, it's next year. Or maybe, like I said, my IP idea of the Lost Boys. John Murdy tweeting that awkward picture of a squid tentacle and baby wipes, a stethoscope, and a squirrel puppet, which Charles connected to H.P. Lovecraft, and I connected to Doctor Who. So, yeah, there could be a little truth in the work, just like I said. So, other things that we seem to know for the event right now. It seems to me, no matter if anybody doesn't want it or not, we're getting The Walking Dead again. I really think it will happen. I do think it's going to be in a soundstage this year. Will there be another Urban Legends house? Yes, I do believe there'll be another Urban Legends house. Do I know what they're going to talk about this time? Not exactly. Do I think it's going to be the Boogeyman house? No, probably not. They'll do something completely different. Maybe they'll go with the Chupacabra idea. That could be a possibility. Or there's also rumors, I kind of alluded to a little bit ago, about Nightingales doing a sequel house this year, and I think that'll probably happen. And it sounds more and more likely we're getting The Purge this year, whether it is part of the street experience or a individual scare zone, or if it's going to be a house itself. Could be interesting to see where we go with that. And it seems more and more likely that the big mark-out property that's going to go to both Orlando and Hollywood is actually going to end up being The Exorcist. And I really think that actually does happen this time around. And, of course, there's all the rumors that were talked about. They had early April Fool's Day videos that were chatting about, and I will give it up to people who brought it up, the Horror Nights updaters actually posted something as an April Fool's joke, and they were talking about Trick or Treat, which I think will end up coming to Hollywood eventually. And talking about Insidious, which, again, if it's going to come, I don't think it's this year. I think they'll wait until the next movie comes out. And obviously they were talking about Dead Space. Dead Space, I think, will come to the event as well. Don't know if it's this year. I think it's probably a couple years down the road, maybe 26 possibly. I think eventually there's going to be a year that's going to be video game heavy. I think that's what we're progressing towards eventually, and I really think that we use video game properties to be at the forefront of an event very soon. Just like I think one year it'll be all IPs it could be all horror films, or it could be all horror television series. I mean, I think that there's going to be necessarily icons that connect everything, but there'll be backstory to connect everything, and I think that's probably going to be the direction that we're going to go here. So, oh, good stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm thinking here. Also, of course, the thing I talked about in my my rumors video I shot a couple days ago, talking about the email that was sent out that was pretty much name-dropping the fact that we're getting The Shining and The Exorcist and a new Resident Evil house and Predator of all things. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible some of that stuff may come to the event eventually. American Horror Story, again, I say right now, I don't think it's this year. I don't think American Horror Story and The Walking Dead will be at the same year. I don't think that happens. And I think that if they're going to do American Horror Story, I would totally wait until Freak Show comes out and they have all 4 seasons to work with. And if they really want to do heavy American Horror Story season, then they do either a Greatest Hits house or they do 4 separate houses from each season, which is a rumor they were talking about doing anyway. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking that if I had to look at Dr. Jimmy's video as my template, I would say that we will get Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Not necessarily sure when, but we will get it. We will eventually get Ghostbusters. Not necessarily sure what year, but this year would make sense, given the fact it's a 30-year anniversary. And if we don't get it this year, I don't think we get it for a long time. If it ever at all. 3, if there is any possibility of an option to ever get Doctor Who, I guarantee it will happen. Mike Aiello will make sure we get Doctor Who if it is in his grasp. Will we get Simpsons Treehouse of Horror? I think it may happen eventually. They were talking about that being an overlay for the Simpsons ride earlier on, but I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work or not. There's a lot that could go into a Simpsons house. And a lot of red tape you really don't have to cut through because you already have the property. So it'd be a little easier to work with in some things. BioShock, yes, BioShock will come to the event. Don't know if it's this year, but BioShock will definitely come to the event. Do I see a Kiss house in the near future? I don't think so, but I could be proven wrong. I wasn't necessarily anticipating we would get Alice Cooper, and we did. It failed, but we got it, so it's possible. The Lucha House, based upon the horror movies of Blue Demon, I really want this house. It would be so awesome. Could you imagine all the indie workers that would get work in this house? Just because they'd be characters? It'd be great. But, yeah, probably not. The Dracula Dual Run house, not in this form. Dracula Untold doesn't really look like it would fit well towards a house. And the Dracula TV series is barely hanging on and may actually be canceled by the time Horror Nights comes out, so I don't think that's going to happen. Is Twilight the Street Experience? No. No way. Kudos to Dr. Jimmy for throwing that out and, like I said, tying in what he said last year in his All Secrets Revealed about Halloween Horror Nights 23. The Bat Lady, it's out there, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think it's a little bit more likely than putting makeup on rats. Yeah, that would never have worked at all. So, yeah, like I said, there's a little truth in the work. And I believe that there is a possibility that we could get legitimately 5 of these houses. I think there's a really good chance we could get 5 of these houses. And that's weird. Maybe 4. Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, like I said, the red tape is not something that's a problem. I think the logistics of it might be the problem. I would state right now that if I had to go on a limb and say, Dr. Jimmy, your video, here's what I think actually, which I'm doing right now, obviously, here's what I'm thinking is the truth, and what I think's the work. I think we legitimately could get Killer Clowns from Outer Space. We will get it eventually. I do think we get Ghostbusters, but if we don't get it this year, I don't know when we could get it again. I don't know when we'd have the chance, the opportunity. It's the 30-year anniversary. It makes perfect sense it comes this year. Doctor Who, if Mike Aiello has any chance of getting Doctor Who, it will happen. It will come to the event for sure. And BioShock, I think, will end up being a video game property somewhere down the line, whether it's this year or next. So, that is my video, my speculation on Dr. Jimmy's videos. Apparently, cryptic comments are coming in the near future, so it'll be fun to dissect those. And obviously, check Dr. Jimmy's Tumblr as well eventually. Maybe he'll throw out some pictures, 8 pictures like last year, to try to get us to connect the dots, if you will. So, as I sip on this black cherry version of my Mountain Dew Kickstart, once more want to throw a shout out to Dr. Jimmy for getting us to think about his very awesome April Fool's Day videos that he does every single year. Like I said, there's always a little truth to the work. And Dr. Jimmy, you are a brilliant man, good sir. I will look forward to hanging out with you at the event this year. Continued shout-outs to the Horror Night Updaters. Obviously, my good pal, Psycho Massacre Films, and Dr. Emmett Brown 1, Deadly Fear 1283, UK HHN, Mr. Horror Nights, and the Red Steel TV, as well as other awesome Halloween Horror Nights updaters like Admiral HHN and HHN Trogdor. So hasn't done much for a while, but yeah, still enjoyed his videos as well. And of course, I definitely want to shout out Charles Bremer from Designing the Fear. He's an awesome guy as well, and all the awesome Halloween Horror Nights updaters that I never mention. Sorry I don't mention you guys and girls out there, but there are a lot of us now. And hopefully you guys enjoy my videos like I do enjoy yours. So yes, it's always fun to speculate, and it's only April 1st. Think about that. We have 5 months till the event, and we're already speculating. And I'll continue our speculation in the near future, because, John Murdy, I have some words for you, sir, to try to break the beauty is skin deep code word, but that's a completely other video, and you'll have to wait for that one. So, in the meantime, if you like these videos, tell your friends about them, leave a comment, do subscribe, and help spread the word about Pop. If you'd like to like our Facebook fan page at Suro and Disney Pop. If you'd like to, oh, I don't know, you can be my friend, send me a friend request on Facebook, I'll accept it, it's Owen Disney. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, we'll talk Halloween Horror Nights or Disney, Wrestling, Universal, whatever you want to talk about, we can do that. And last but certainly not least, if you want to send your thoughts, comments, queries, and opinions about Halloween Horror Nights, you want to talk Horror Nights like I have been with a couple of you out there the last couple of days, or if you want to talk wrestling or Disney or Universal itself, or you want to talk about how awesome Cabana Bay looks and how I cannot wait to stay there for opening night of Halloween Horror Nights and opening weekend of Halloween Horror Nights, then you can shoot me an email, suroanddisney@gmail.com. In the meantime, thank you guys and girls out there for watching, and until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all I gotta say about that.